So welcome back, everybody, to what we're calling It's a Wrap, which is our closing session, our session of conclusions for the event. We want this session to be a little bit more informal than the rest of the event. So hopefully you've all poured yourself a drink. I know it's just about getting time where we're allowed to pour ourselves a drink, I suppose. So hope you all pour yourself a drink and making yourself comfortable. And we're going to be now hearing from some of our speakers on what the key outcomes and takeaways and what their conclusions are from the sessions that we've had over the course of the last 2 days. But it's not only the speakers that we want to hear from, we also want to hear from you guys out there. So please do add in the chat on the right-hand side any final thoughts, any, as I said, the key takeaways that you have for the event. Please do add those into the chat, and we really do want to hear from you and want you to be part of this, this session as well. So it's become a bit of a tradition at this conference over the last, I say 3 or 4 years, probably almost from the start, for the networking reception to be hosted by Aware. And we're hugely grateful to Aware that both last year, when we were in the virtual format, and this year, they've continued this trend and once again hosted our final networking and conclusion session. So whilst it's a little bit more difficult, obviously, than normal for them to provide drinks for people and the canapes, we have sent out drinks to all of our speakers and panelists on their behalf. So hopefully you've all received those. And if you have, and if you spoke at the event, then now is the time to get that open. And if you haven't had those, or for our delegates, as I said, please do pour yourself a drink as well. But we really do appreciate Aware's continued support of the event. And I'm delighted to now welcome to the stage Jean-Pierre Faison from Aware, who is going to say a few words and open the reception. So Jean-Pierre, as I said, thank you so much for your continued support. We do really, really appreciate that. And on behalf of all our speakers and panelists, I'd like to say a big thank you as well for the champagne that you provided and sent to all of them. So I'm sure they're very appreciative of that as well. Here we are. So yes. But I'd like you to say, invite you to say a few words now and to formally open our closing reception, and at the same time to maybe let us know what some of your key takeaways were from the conference.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much, Dan, for the kind introduction. And I think in the name of all speakers and also all attendees, I would like to thank you and the team for the organization of this event. The preparation, I know, is a huge work, and I think the event went totally flawless technically, and the content was great. So thanks very much. I'm sure we'll hear still a lot of things in this wrap-up session. I think this wrap-up session is also a relaxed way. We cannot have the networking reception for real, but at least it's a relaxed way to look back and prepare the future also. And I think those conferences, in a general way, are a relaxed way to step back from daily activities and to prepare a common future. If you look at I think the first was in 2017, first 5G conference. And at the time, I think the question was, what is exactly 5G? And why does it matter to Europe? And in 2022, I think we know, and not only through this conference, but also because of this conference, we have now a much better view. We know what 5G is, we know where we are, and more importantly, we know also where we are going in Europe with the digital path and the digital compass. And now the question is more, we wonder how to make it better somehow. What's the best way to make it happen and how to make it better? At EWIA, we had some, in a way, the similar path. In 2017, the share of infrastructure which was outsourced to independent wireless infrastructure operators, such as the EWIA members, was 17%. So it existed, of course, but the question was, what is it exactly? What does it mean in Europe to be an independent wireless infrastructure operators? And now in 2022, I think there's been a step function in a way. The market share has risen to 33%. So I think now we are very well established players in the 4G, 5G ecosystem. And the benefits are now becoming quite clear and market-led in a way. So this has worked very well. And now the question has moved to how to make it even better. And better for us, that means better connectivity, reaping the best of the infrastructure sharing model that independent neutral hosts can provide. There's also better growth and better innovation, that is using the quick time to market to allow all the benefits that go through innovation in the 5G era. And also, I think, better future, including a reflection on the role that infrastructure providers and shared infrastructure can play in the sustainability of the business, and reaching also not only the digital targets, but also part of the Green Deal. And I think this is an issue which will keep us quite busy. Actually, all those issues will keep us quite busy in the conferences to come. And I'm sure those objectives are also shared by many of the stakeholders. I'm looking forward to listening to what they are going to say. And once again, thanks for great reception, and cheers to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre, and really do appreciate that. And yeah, thank you so much again on behalf of everyone for helping to support and host this reception. And yeah, it's interesting you say that. I think you started by saying in the first event we had the question of what is 5G. I think in the last session yesterday, I think the question was raised of what is 6G. So that's going to be the next thing going forward. So, but no, thank you so much. And as I said, really do appreciate all your support and those words and those conclusions that you brought. So thank you so much indeed. So now I'm going to start bringing up some of our speakers who we are delighted to have with us to provide some of their conclusions and their key thoughts on the event and on how everything has gone, and on the sessions that they participated in and other ones as well. So welcome everybody. And Martha, I'm so sorry, I almost forgot Martha, apologies. So that's everyone now. I don't think I've forgotten anyone now. So but welcome everybody, and lovely to have you all with us, and we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us for this. So we have a lovely selection of speakers from different industry stakeholder groups, and also the regulators here as well. So I think I'm going to start off with the industry viewpoints, and Jonas and Eric, maybe we'll come to you last, if that's okay, to give us the last word to our regulators here. So maybe Natalia, I can start off with yourself and ask you to give us your thoughts and takeaways from the satellite side of things.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Dan, for the opportunity to kick off this wrap-up session. I'm delighted to be here as GSOA. I think every year this conference gets more and more interesting, and it is a big step for the ecosystem to have more technologies stepping up. As we heard during this week, I think the world is embracing satellite, and we should all do so. However, if I'm honest, I look forward to that moment when we can start to discuss how we can move forward together to provide better services, and not just still trying to prove that satellite is part of the team. The rest of the world is already running ahead in embracing satellite technology, from the US to Africa, but embracing it in Europe is still taking a bit of time. We've heard multiple examples throughout this conference that are statements to what satellite is doing for improving Europeans' lives, whether it is for coverage and resilience in the UK, or edge computing in Spain, for connected and autonomous vehicles, or 5G backhaul in remote parts of Europe, or for cloud computing or aero connectivity. So to my mind, there really needs to be a fundamental change in the mindset to bring policy, definitions, and guidelines in line with all these developments, and also to see technologies like satellite as directly relevant to Europe's digital competitiveness and recovery. It is time to realize that we need to think beyond speeds, give importance to other values such as coverage, resilience, or reliability, and also start thinking about a more complete 5G or even a 6G, which will be based on an integrated solution. Ambitious targets are important. I think we all agree on that. It's the only way that we can move forward, but we also need to be consistent between initiatives, realistic and especially inclusive. We encourage policymakers to avoid using absolute targets that risk missing the point, and more importantly, exclude technologies that are crucial. Let's not forget the human component. The value of technological developments is more when they lift society as a whole. Even if they represent only a small percentage, the 5 million households that are still unconnected in Europe should not be neglected because of idealistic objectives that risk making the gap between them and the rest of Europe even larger, effectively creating new classes of citizens, those connected to the highest speeds and those with none. We've seen also a clear evolution in many aspects, and I think during this conference we've heard many. There is a vision for the future. Before 5G, satellites were interworking with terrestrial networks. Now with 5G and 5G Advanced, we're talking about integration of technologies. And with 6G now, we will see unification of technologies, where 6G is defined from the start based on different technologies rather than seeing them as add-ons. And also spectrum matters, and with this I will finish. There is a lot of growth in the industry between the GEO and the NGSOs, and all of the bands, including mid-bands, are very relevant. We also heard yesterday the importance of 28 gigahertz bands, and from the 3GPP's run plenary in December, and the studies that are going to take place also for mobility in this matter. So we look forward to being involved again next year in the Forum Europe, and we thank you all very much for organizing these awesome conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat, and really appreciate those words. And I guess I should probably offer my congratulations to you and everyone at WASA-SOA for going global and becoming GSOA. So yeah, great to see that as well. And it's always great to have you guys part of the event. So thank you very much indeed. Next, let me turn to Hui. Hui Hao from Huawei. Hui, great to have you with us and look forward to hearing your takeaways from the event.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you Forum Europe for organizing this wonderful and important event, which attracted so many important stakeholders in the 5G, 6G, and wireless ecosystem to discuss the potential good future of the European 5G. And first of all, from Huawei side, we welcome the strong commitment of the Commission towards the 5G rollout and associate financial support from a relevant European financial mechanism. We likewise consider positive evolution that the ongoing revision of the guidelines on the state aid for broadband networks should be more inclusive with respect to 5G and 5G FWA in line with principle of technology neutrality. We also support the Commission's commitment towards the 5G corridors deployment along major pathways in line with CEF2 digital program. In this regard, it's good to see the early launch in 2022 of the first goal and the CEF2 digital program, as well as SNS-JEO. So the SNS-JEO will play a crucial role in ensuring that Europe will be equipped with the tech know-how to be an early adoption of the 6G technology. So Huawei wants to support Europe even in the 6G development. And also come to the topic of 6G, we need to fully ensure that we are all working together in developing unitary global 6G standards. It makes no economic sense whatsoever to have separate decoupled standards for 6G. And also it's of paramount importance to avoid technology fragmentations and suppliers exclusion based on the geopolitics only. So innovation can only be ensured by enforcing an effective competition in the market. So to conclude, we invite the NRAs, the regulators and the policymakers to allocate the spectrum at the right frequencies in order to make sure that the 5G rollout is not delayed without reasonable justifications. So let's work together to make a better future of European 5G. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And I think an excellent sentiment to finish on then. Let's work together to achieve those goals. So thank you very much. So we've heard from satellite and we've heard from a mobile representative. Let's now maybe next turn to someone from the Wi-Fi side. So Guillaume, maybe I can introduce yourself. Guillaume Lebrun from Meta. And Guillaume, welcome. And yeah, good to hear your thoughts on what your key conclusions are.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I think I'm going to echo what Jean-Pierre was saying, that this year's conference for me was a good sign of the end, that we enter the age of maturity of 5G. So if you remember a few years ago, we had this kind of dream of 5G and what it could do. And I think we're starting to see what the reality is behind it. 5G is going to be a great technology, providing great mobile broadband coverage. And that's really where we should focus on and that what we should improve. I mean, we still see signs in the RSPG work program or in a digital decade that there's still this magical thinking that 5G is going to save all the problem in the world. But we're starting to see that we don't need to do that with 5G. What we need with 5G is to have great mobile broadband and great mobile connectivity. And we've heard throughout the conference that we've got the solution to make that happen. So on the technology side, I mean, if these networks start to work better with other networks, other technology, whether it's local network, whether it's satellite, of course, recognizing the role of fiber and fixed access, and of course, Wi-Fi, then that's a technology solution. And on the investment side, I mean, of course, the 5G network, we still need to involve, we still need to have better services. But the good news is that there are applications which are bringing additional revenue, which will bring new services. And that's an opportunity because we will need better 5G networks, we will need 6G networks. That will require a lot of investment, as we saw. It's not that easy if you're just providing mobile broadband services, but we can provide new services which will bring new revenue and will enable to keep on improving these mobile networks. So that would be my conclusion. Thanks.
Guillaume, thank you very much. And again, some excellent words to conclude things with. So thank you. Really appreciate your thoughts there. Next up, we will move to Marit. So back to a telecom side of things. Marit, it'd be good to hear your thoughts. I know you obviously participated right at the start of the day yesterday. And so, yeah, good to hear now. Good to have you back, I should say, at the end of the second day, and look forward to hearing your conclusions. So floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. And first of all, a big thank you and congratulations to the organizers and also to Jean-Pierre, of course, for this nice drink. Yeah, I can only really echo what Guillaume just said before, that I think it's fairly clear that the foundations for 5G have been set, and 5G is really here now, which is really good. It also feels good from an operator point of view to start talking about the early experiences and the good practices that we start seeing from the field, if you like. So that's a real change and a welcome change, I think. The full value of 5G, of course, and I think it's been reflected through these discussions today and yesterday, will only be revealed in some years' time when we start seeing the vertical industry use cases coming in, and also the different innovative deployment models that we are currently testing. And so there will be still a lot of new things, I think, and a lot more services and value coming up in the coming years. In terms of policy environment, I mean, it still remains critical, and it was really good to see a good number of both regulators but also policymakers at the event. So that's always a fruitful discussion, I think. And I think, you know, we cannot avoid the spectrum issue. So there's clearly still a lot of expectations vis-a-vis a kind of more consistent approach to spectrum auctions and spectrum assignment in the EU. So there's, I think, still a little bit work to do there. Of course, there are a lot of policy issues that have been there and we've discussed in the last year, so I don't want to necessarily go back to those, but what is also clear is that there are new things that we are currently looking at, and this relates to, for example, these innovative ways of deployment, so Open RAN that was discussed yesterday. And I think it's really good to see that it's not only us, the industry, who are looking into these, but also the policymakers and other stakeholders who are assessing these new options, because that will then reinforce the way forward, I think, with 5G, and also then hopefully multiply opportunities to do good things and add value with 5G. And first and last point maybe on on security and environment. So these are things that, again, were on the agenda, and we have to keep this in mind with everything, I think, that we do in the digital world, but also so with 5G. And this is certainly something that we also, from the operators' point of view, will be working on and are working on actively at the moment. So again, a big thank you, and it was a pleasure to be part of this event again. And yes, I'll hand it back over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Marit. Really appreciate that. And as ever, it was a pleasure to have you guys as part of the event as well. So thank you, and yeah, really appreciate those final thoughts from your side as well. So next up, Stefan, maybe I can pass to yourself. So you participated in a session just a couple of hours ago today. But yeah, keen to hear your thoughts on that, and more broadly on your conclusions from the event.
Thanks very much, Dan. Yeah, this was another great conference. And what I particularly liked about this, that we are now at the point where 5G meets reality. And in that sense, the last session actually on small cells, the implementation, how do you actually cater for area traffic densities in cities, was perhaps one of the most interesting. And also people starting to talk about what does 5G actually mean in terms of the for example, data speed and latency delivered to users, and the definitions you could apply to that in rural areas. And with that, the awareness of the need for additional mid-band spectrum to provide area capacity in cities, and sub-1 gigahertz spectrum for in-building coverage, as well as rural area coverage. Perhaps the one thing that was not talked about so much is what do we actually do with 5G, the digital transformation of our societies, and in particular, e-government aspect. Just one anecdote on a recent TV program in Berlin in the context of COVID, where people can't physically go to get local government services. The local government person responsible for this was being attacked on television for the lack of digital services delivery, and she pointed out that actually the legislation prevents her from doing it because many processes require a physical presence. And this shows that perhaps society and large part of government hasn't really woken up to the digital transformation, and now that we have the 5G tools to actually do it, this would be the appropriate time to look at that. So looking at digital enablement and spectrum, I was reminded of an old joke about what is the European heaven. You probably remember that the cook is French, the mechanic German, the lover is Italian. If I could add to that, what would be the 5G heaven? I'd say it has a Finnish spectrum manager and an Estonian e-government person. With that, thank you very much again for the great conference.
Thank you, Stefan. And yeah, really appreciate those final thoughts and the perfect 5G. That's a great way to finish. So thank you so much for that. Next up then, I think, Volker, maybe we can turn to yourself, coming at things from the Nokia Bell Labs side of things. And again, keen to hear your final thoughts on things.
Yes, with pleasure, Dan. Thank you. So indeed, this has been an inspiring, insightful event and conference. Obviously, networks, the future of connectivity is at the heart of what we do at Nokia. And the future of connectivity and communications in the 2030s is at the heart of what we do at Nokia Bell Labs. And what I think many of you are aware, 6G is on, 6G research is on. We started to engage in 6G research 3 years ago. And I'll share a little bit more insight on 6G since I had the pleasure of serving the panel on this also yesterday. But before I come to that, I would like to briefly also reflect on how the event has gone overall and what the key takeaways might be. I think first and foremost, indeed, accelerated rollout, 5G rollout is happening and very successfully. But let's be clear, we've seen nothing yet. So there's a lot more to come. We will have the great opportunity to exploit the full potential now, moving from non-standalone to standalone scenarios. And keep in mind, there's 5G Advanced around the corner. So the next major step, release 18, aspects of coverage expansion, aspects that go way beyond connectivity, as well as enhanced experience, and even first scenarios on the path towards 6G, if you like, such as MIMO enhancements, extended reality, but also aspects of operational excellence. And we could discuss these a lot more, but that's very important to keep in mind. So 5G evolution is happening, and we will make sure it happens the right way, linking into ecosystems and a variety of players beyond operators. I think that's another key takeaway. Great to see all the momentum, especially with enterprise. And of course, we at Nokia, we are very much motivated to help make that happen and with maximum impact. Having said all this, I think the one other key takeaway, which also has become very visible in this event, is one of the strengths we do have here in Europe, which is the way we work together. And this is to thank the Commission and thank the various regulators also for the spirit, but also the instruments as we have. So PPP, private-public, public-private partnership is real. And we've heard a lot of talk about funding. It's true, funding matters. And by the way, joint undertaking, smart networks and services will be extremely relevant, but it's not just the funding. It's really about the way we work together and jointly innovate. And this will be particularly relevant for 6G, just in one sentence, making sure we start from the value angle, while at the same time, of course, exploiting new technologies to truly help the world act together and innovate jointly in the best possible interest of the societies we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Volkan. Really appreciate those final thoughts as well. And coming back to that theme of working together and cooperation as well, which I think has been running through what a lot of people have said in this session and through the event more broadly. So thank you very much. Martha, over to you and to get your final thoughts coming at things from the Dynamic Spectrum Alliance perspective.
So much, Dan. I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for organizing this conference. I think it was very interesting. It was great to see delegates and representatives from different stakeholders. And that is the purpose, indeed, to have this type of discussions and to interact and everyone making their arguments and having the opportunity to make that contrast between the ideas and perceptions. It's a shame it was not face-to-face. I hope we will have the opportunity to meet personally at some point this year. I'm very excited to hear about the 6G conference in the future. And what I would like to highlight from this conference this year is the fact that the dynamic spectrum access, from that perspective, we are seeing more and more evolutions. So I'm very glad to see that the concept of a spectrum sharing, not exclusively like having in the same band different services, each one separated, but thinking about real dynamic spectrum access, real automated solutions, an opportunity for new broadband access, for new networks, for better types of networks. It's really exciting. The industry that we represent is glad to see how this is moving forward. And to see that almost, I would say that spectrum sharing is becoming part of the new normal for 6G. And it's also exciting to see the discussion about the future of the 6 gigahertz band. I think it was great to hear different positions and arguments again. I would just highlight in that case that we need to keep in mind that there are incumbents in the band, and that spectrum sharing doesn't mean just like let's try to impose one technology over the other, but let's try to find a way for technologies to those that are there to continue growing, and for those new technologies also to coexist and to grow. Probably a final message, it's like the challenge that spectrum regulators have is huge. It's not only about deciding on a particular band, but it has a great impact on the society. And the decisions that are taken now will have an impact, and there are many also opportunity costs. So I would say to my final message to authorities is to keep in mind that we could think about what's going to be the future in 10 or 20 years, but there are many actions that we can undertake right now that will provide benefits at the right time when people need it the most. So thank you so much.
Martha, thank you very much, and again, some excellent words to help summarize some of the discussions and thoughts on everything. So I really do appreciate that. So we've heard from some of the key industry voices. Let's, as I said before, maybe give the last words to a couple of the regulators and the policymakers who've been participating throughout the 2 days and have been with us. So Jonas and Eric, maybe Jonas, I can pass to yourself first of all and ask you to give us your thoughts and final conclusions from your side.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you for organising this yet again. Just to echo the words of Jean-Pierre, 5G is coming of age to some degree, and that as a regulator and as a participant in this phenomenal conference makes me, well, both slightly happy and sad. 5G is here. It has become bread and butter. And oh my God, how complicated the discussions are on funding, corridors, networks, security, sovereignty, and importance of this and that. But it also makes me really proud as being a regulator, seeing that policy matters. What we decide and the paths we lay out through the RSPG or in other fora really, really matters. We see how the discussion during these days have been focused quite a lot on mid-band spectrum. And if we go back a few years, there was very little talk about mid-band spectrum in 5G. What we've heard quite little about is millimetric wave, which has been sort of the buzzword of 5G. And also, I think we've heard very little about low frequency bands, sub 1 gigahertz. So I think it's really 5G is coming of age, and I'm really happy to hear the bubbling about 6G, because as regulators and as policymakers and researchers and all our fellow speakers at this conference, we're quite anxious to go to the next stage. So I can't wait for the next conference, starting to see what are the issues on 6G and how can we as regulators and an international community add to that. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Eric for our last word. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonas. And indeed, let's hand over to Eric and give Eric the last word. So Eric, over to you.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks to the organizer for this 5G conference. That's always a unique opportunity to understand what is at stake for 5G and soon and now already 6G in Europe and in the world. We don't have, I mean, like Jonas, we don't have really message to give here. We are more in a listening mode and maybe a few words on what I could understand from the various sessions. My interest as our SPG chair is more on spectrum issues, which was a big part of the discussions, in particular this second day. But I enjoy really having a wider perspective in cybersecurity, the public funding, the ecosystem. But I will limit myself to the spectrum side. So what I could hear that there are messages which are not really changing over years. First, harmonization. Harmonization, that's something which is important for all players, all communities. They want to have economies of scale, possibility of worldwide interoperability, and that's something which is a key message. Sharing, there was not so much discussion about sharing, but many remarks that sharing bands between spectrum users is part of the solution to increase and improve spectrum access for 5G. So the message, our SPG message, use it or share it, remains valid. Like sharing becomes normal. I mean, that's what I could hear. Although dynamic sharing is not yet really implemented in Europe, and I know Marta is trying to push for that. Also, adjoining, something which is not really changed. The dispute about spectrum demand, GSOA considered that there's no real need for more MNO spectrum. GSMA wants, in fact, 2 gigahertz more spectrum in the mid bands. And I don't see really the need for local license or for more licensed spectrum. And of course, your license community, the Wi-Fi community, as you say, Dan, is really caring about having the full 6 gigahertz with your per 6 gigahertz. So of course, Spectrum Manager wants to satisfy everybody. We cannot pick up winner, and that's another work. So there are new elements, of course, the EU context with the digital compass, the path to a digital decade. That was stressed. We need to have consistency between the EU ambition and the spectrum supply. So that's our work. As the presentations at this conference are really highlighting the multiplicity of connectivity platforms, the micro cells, the small cells, the local coverage verticals, the issue of neutral host for indoor coverage, the fixed broadband access again, and the satellite, of course. That was expected for 5G. 5G was defined as vision with a network of network, and that's part of the 5G revolution, what brings innovations and probably revenue. That time there was an emphasis on very local application with customized network performance, where it was surprising to see that for small cell it's not a regulation issue anymore, but that in fact the solutions may be more in densifying micro cell rather than deploying a small cell for operators. That's a very interesting lesson. But all that multiplicity of platform mean that there's a need to a variety of regulations or spectrum solutions. So the questions for us is not how much spectrum is needed for 5G, but how to address the various spectrum demand and the applicable regulations to ensure that we enable all these connectivity platforms to find solutions in terms of spectrum. And that's in relation with this very interesting session about 5G coverage and 5G targets also becoming multidimensional with speed and latency and other parameters. This very basic question, how to define 5G, not yet answered. That was very interesting to me. Something not surprising that was highlighted by everybody. We are speaking more and more about 6G, and we are eager as regulator to get elements on that, as mentioned by Jonas. So industry is in the starting block. That's good. Of course, that will be something in the agenda of the work program of our SPG in the next year. That's obviously also in relation with WRC23 outcome, notably on the 6 gigahertz, and also for the preparation of the WRC27 agenda. The way to speak about satellite has changed. It's not always fight about 5G trying to access a frequency band which is used for satellite. It's more and more as a solution, satellite solutions to have global connectivity for end user, but also to meet specific needs for some verticals, having global connectivity, for example. Satellite is part of the 5G agenda, and that was mentioned also for 6G, the integrated non-terrestrial network will be very important for 6G, and that was mentioned also, vision for 6G as being unified between satellite and terrestrial. That's an important element that we have to hear. And now in terms of frequency band, that's the one which have been mentioned many times during this conference, the upper 6 gigahertz, the 3842 with local coverage verticals under study. The lower 6 gigahertz, maybe with more flexible conditions, enabling a licensed vertical, sub-terahertz spectrum for 6G, obviously. The interest of sub-gigahertz, but it was mentioned, the UHF spectrum was not so much discussed at this conference, and I noted that. And of course, frequency band for satellite mentioned several times. So again, many thanks for the organizer. Many thanks to Jean-Pierre for this wrap-up session. And I wish you to meet you in with we all meeting next time, whatever it's 5G or 6G conference. That will be interesting to see you face to face. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And yeah, definitely would echo those thoughts. I really hope that we're able to very soon come back and all be able to come together in person. But thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate your comprehensive summary of the various topics there. And again, thank you to all of our speakers who've been involved in this last session. So thank you to all of you. I think this conference is all about bringing together people from the different stakeholder groups, and I think the mix that we've had here with all of you here, we really do appreciate it, and we really appreciate all of your support for the event and everything you do, the time that you give us to make the event possible. So cheers. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you. So we've heard from all of the final thoughts from our speakers and our different stakeholder groups, and it's great. I've seen that some of you have started adding your your thoughts into the comments, the chat room, I should say, on the right-hand side of the screen as well, which is great. So thank you very much. And yeah, as I said, we do want to hear from you. So please do continue to do that. So in a minute, we're going to be having our live band. The Sweetbeats are going to be joining us to finally wrap everything up and to help us properly close the event. So don't go away. But just before we do pass to them, if you wouldn't mind bearing me just for a couple more seconds, I wanted to finish with just a few final event thank yous. So first of all, I wanted to say a big thank you to Jean-Pierre once again and to Aware for hosting this reception, and also, of course, to all of our sponsor and partner organizations. You can see the logos of all the organizations over my shoulder here. We really do appreciate the support of each and every one of you. So thank you all so much for everything you do to make this event possible. A huge thank you to all of our speakers, obviously to all of the speakers and guests who participated in that conclusion session there, but also to all of our speaker panelists and moderators who have taken part in the 10 sessions that have taken place over the 2 days of this conference. We've had some hugely interesting and some wide-ranging discussions, and yet not always been agreement, but that's again is what all this is about. And we really appreciate all of your involvement and you giving up your time to be with us and to participate both at the event itself and also in the rehearsals and the tech tests and things that we've had in the build up to the event. We do appreciate how much time it takes, and thank you all so much for giving up your time in that way. A big thank you as well to all of you out there. So we've had just over 1,000 people have participated over the 2 days of this conference, which is fantastic. I think it's just a slight increase on last year, but really do appreciate that. And I think in terms of the countries, I think we said at the start, I think it was 101 different countries were represented by the people on the delegate list. So throughout Europe and the rest of the world, but really do appreciate all of you participating in the event, and particularly to those of you who got involved by adding your questions and your comments into the chat area and giving those questions to our speakers. So thank you all so much. Really do appreciate all of your involvement and for staying with us for the event. And finally, as normal, I wanted to say the last thank you to my colleagues in the Spectrum team here at Forum Europe. So there's a huge amount of work that goes on behind the scenes when we organise these events, and the team, they really deserve all of the credit for the successful way in which this event has taken place. So Jordan, Kate, James, and Lula, thank you all as ever. Really do appreciate everything you've done to make sure this event has run smoothly. So thank you. And just before we move to the Sweetbeats, I wanted to give a very quick plug for some of the next events that we're going to be taking place as part of our kind of events in Europe and elsewhere around the world. So first of all, the 6G conference. We have mentioned that a couple of times. We are going to be launching a 6G event. I think the amount of times that 6G has been mentioned throughout the last 2 days has shown there's a huge amount of interest in what's happening both in Europe and elsewhere around the world as people start to prepare for 6G. So we're going to be arranging a global 6G event. It's probably going to be taking place in either September or October as a virtual event. So we should be able to sort the dates for that and let you all know about that shortly. So we'll definitely be in touch shortly on that one, but that one is in the pipeline, and we'll be able to provide you with more information on that one shortly. We also have our regular Spectrum management events taking place as part of the Global Spectrum series. So we're going to be running all of the regional events again this year. We're really hoping to be able to get back to do a lot of those in person, or bring in-person elements into those. We're going to be starting off with the CIS and Central Eastern European Spectrum Conference, which is scheduled to take place on the 4th and 5th of April. And at the moment, we're looking to have the in-person element for that one in St. Petersburg, and then a virtual element online. The Asia Pacific event will then be the second one in the series this year, which is going to be on the 26th and 27th of April. Again, we're hoping to have an in-person element. Not quite sure where that's likely to be yet, but we'll keep you updated and things on that front. And the European event, European Spectrum Management Conference, the dates for that one are the 8th and 9th of June. And again, looking to have hopefully an in-person element. Hopefully we can all get together and share a drink in Brussels on those dates. All the information on those events and the rest of our upcoming Global Spectrum Series conferences are available on the event website, which is www.spectrum-series.com. So we've heard conclusions from the speakers. We've heard from some of you. Please do continue to add your key takeaways and conclusions from the last 2 days of discussions in the chat box on the right-hand side. And whilst you're doing that, we're now delighted to turn to our musical entertainment and to bring to the stage some familiar faces who are going to play some music and help us close this year's conference. So for those of you who were with us last year for the event, I'm sure you'll remember a fantastic band called the Sweetbeats who joined us for the closing ceremony then. Now, we received such good feedback from the performance that time round that we then asked them back to play at our Spectrum Management Conference last June. And we're delighted to have them back here with us again for a third time today. So by popular demand, I would like to now welcome to the stage some people who I can pretty much call the Forum Europe House Band. It's Claire, Daryl and Russell, the Sweetbeats. So hi guys, welcome back. And it's great to have you here with us again. So thanks everyone for your participation over the last 2 days. We really do appreciate it. But now it's time to pour yourself a drink, turn those speakers up loud, and once again, enjoy the sound of the Sweetbeats. Guys, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. First of all, we'd like to wish you all a happy new year. And then now is your chance to sit back, relax, and just enjoy the music.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
We're 1,000 miles from comfort. We have traveled land and sea. But as long as you are with me, there's no place I'd rather be. I will wait forever, exalted in the sea. But as long as we're together, there's no place I'd rather be. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the battery. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Know with all of your heart you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. We set out on a mission to find our inner peace, make it everlasting, so nothing's incomplete. It's easy being with you, sacred simplicity. As long as we're together, there's no place I'd rather be. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the battery. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Know with all of your heart you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. Bing, 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 bing. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Know with all of your heart you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. No, 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 no. No place I'd rather be. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. Woo! The only place we would rather be is with you in person. So we are hoping that the next time we will be able to see you in the flesh. But for now, this is good for now. So it's good being back. If you don't want to see me, did a full 180, crazy, thinking about the way I was. Did the heartbreak change me? Maybe, but look at where I've ended up. I'm all good already, so move on, it's scary. I'm not where you left me at all. So, if you don't want to see me dancing with somebody, if you will never believe that anything can stop me, don't show up, don't come out, don't start caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't start caring about me now. Aren't you the guy who tried to hurt me with the word goodbye? Though it took some time to survive you, I'm better on the other side. I'm all good already, so move on, it's scary. I'm not where you left me at all. Oh, if you don't want to see me dancing with somebody, if you will never believe that anything can stop me, don't show up, don't come out, don't start caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't start caring about me now. Oh, oh, don't come out, out, out. Don't show up, oh, oh. Oh, oh, don't come out, out, out. Don't show up. Oh, so if you don't want to see me dancing with somebody, if you will never believe that anything can stop me, don't show up, don't come out, don't start caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't start caring about me now. Oh, oh, don't come out, out, out. Don't show up, oh, oh. Oh, oh, don't come out, out, out. Don't show up, oh, oh. Don't show up, don't come out. Don't start caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't start caring about me now.
Loving you isn't the right thing to do. How can I ever change things that I feel? If I could, baby, I'd give you my world. How can I, when you won't take it from me? You can go your own way. You can that I feel. If I could, maybe I'd give you my world. How can I, when you won't take it from me? You can go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. You can go your own way. Go your own way. Tell me why everything turned around. Packing up, jacking up is all you want to do. If I could, maybe I'd give you my world. How can I? Everything's waiting for you. You can go your own way. Go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. You can go your own way. Go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. Another lonely day. You can go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. Another lonely day. You can go your own way. You can go your own way. You can go your own way. Go your own way. You can call it another lonely day. Another lonely day. You can go your own way. You can go your own way.
I'm sure you must have been singing along to that one. I can't help it if that comes out. Am I right? Yeah. Let's go, go, go. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see the crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out and I'll lay your wish bare. See how I leave with every piece of you. Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch and it's bringing me out the dark. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love that leave me breathless. I can't help thinking we could have had it all. Rolling in the deep. You have my heart inside of your head. Then you play it to the beat. Baby, I have no story to be told, but I'll put one on you. I'm gonna let your head burn. Think of me in the depths of your despair. Make a home down there, 'cause my joy won't be shared. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help thinking we could have had it all. Rolling in the deep. You have my heart inside of your head. Then you play it to the beat. We could have had it all, rolling in the deep. You had my heart inside of your hand, then you played it to the beat. Throw your soul through every open door. Count your blessings to find what you look for. Turn my sorrow into treasured gold. You pay me back in kind and reap just what you sow. I'm gonna wish you never had me. We could have had it all. Tears are gonna fall, rolling in. We could have had it all. I'm gonna wish you never had me. It all, tears are gonna fall, it all. We could have had it all. Rolling in the tears are gonna fall. You had my heart inside of your head. Then you played it to the beat. We could have had it all. Rolling in the deep. You had my heart inside of your head. Then you played it to the beat. Woo. Right, this next one is the final one of the day. So thank you again so much for having us. It's been brilliant. Happy New Year. Let's hope this year is a happier, healthier new year for us all. Take care.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, don't say 'cause I know I'm cute. Louis down to my drawers, LVO on my shoes. I'll be dripping so much sauce, gotta be looking like ragu. Lit up like a crystal ball, that's cool, baby, so is you. That's how I roll. If I'm shining, everybody gotta shine. I was born like this, don't even gotta try. I like Chardonnay, get better over time. Heard you say I'm not the baddest girl, you lie. It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose, gotta blame it on my juice, baby. It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on my goose, gotta blame it on my juice, baby. Mirror, mirror on the wall, don't say 'cause I know I'm cute. Louis down to my drawers, LV on my juice. I'll be dripping so much sauce, gotta be looking like ragu. Lit up like a crystal ball, and baby, so is you. That's how I roll. If I'm shining, everybody gotta shine. I was born like this, don't even gotta try. I like Chardonnay, get better over time. Heard you say I'm not the baddest, you lie. It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on my goose, gotta blame it on my juice, baby. It ain't my fault that I'm out here making moves. Time to put it in the proof. Gotta blame it on my juice, yeah, 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 yeah. Blame it on my juice, blame it on my juice, yeah, 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 yeah. Blame it on my juice, blame it on my juice. No, I'm not gonna stack it all. Look, baby, I'm a whole damn meal. Baby, you ain't being slick, don't bet on top of feel. If the juice ain't worth the squeeze, then the juice don't look like this. Holla, baby, please don't let me have to take your. That's how I roll. If I'm shining, everybody gotta shine. I was born like this, don't even gotta try. I like Chardonnay, get better over time. Heard you say I'm not the baddest, you lie. It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on my juice, baby. It ain't my fault that I'm out here making news. Time to put it in the booth. Gotta blame it on my juice. Yeah, blame it on my juice. Blame it on my juice. Yeah, blame it on my juice. Blame it on my juice. Somebody come get this man. I think he got lost in my DMs. What? My DMs. What? You better come get your man. I think you wanna be way more than friends. What? More than friends. It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on my juice, baby. It ain't my fault that I'm out here making news. Time to put it in the proof. Gotta blame it on my juice. Yeah, blame it on my juice. Blame it on my juice. Yeah, blame it on my juice. Blame it on my juice, baby. Gotta blame it on my juice. Gotta blame it on my juice. Yeah, blame it on my juice. Blame it on my juice, baby. Thank you so much for having us. We have been the Sweet Beats. We hope you have enjoyed our show. Take care.